Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to the 2020 Lake City Reporter Candidate Forum for the August primary. I'm Todd Wilson, publisher of the Lake City Reporter. For the next 90 minutes, you will hear from candidates vying for positions in local races that include the Lake City and Columbia County areas. The format of this forum will be much different from local productions you've seen here in the past. The Lake City Reporter Candidate Forum will be an open question and answer dialogue between our moderator, Robert Bridges, the editor of the Lake City Reporter, and candidates in each race. Candidates will be free to answer questions, discuss issues, and respond to their opponents. Each candidate has pledged to participate within the boundaries of civilized human behavior. This forum also is different from those in the past in that it is solely organized and produced by the Lake City Reporter. The newspaper has rented television studio space at Florida Gateway College and hired the camera crew and the production staff for this broadcast. These political forums are being broadcast as a community service for the people on Comcast Channel 8, on local cable TV, on the internet, and on the Lake City Reporter's Facebook page. We want to thank each of the candidates for having the courage to step forward in hopes of making a positive difference in their community as they seek public office. Remember, early voting begins in Columbia County on Saturday, August 8th, and primary election day in Florida is Tuesday, August 18th. Again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for reading your local newspaper, the Lake City Reporter, and let freedom ring.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the 2020 Lake City Reporter Candidate Forum. It's a little different this time. It's going to be very informative and maybe even a little entertaining. We got County Commission tonight, all night. Districts 1, 3, and 5. Let's start off with District 1. I have with me here the incumbent in District 1. To my left, Ron Williams, and to my right, Kyle Green. Kyle, we're going to start with you. Talk a bit, if you would, about whatever disagreements you may have with the incumbent concerning matters of policy. What are some of the votes he's cast in the last few years that you find that you think are just plain wrong and that you would have voted differently on?
Right. So, as you know, COVID has been very serious in in the United States, and also it's affected a lot of people in the county, in Columbia County. It's affected a lot of small businesses and families. And whenever I've gone out and spoke with people within District 1 in the community, they have said one of their biggest concerns in District 1 is that they feel like they've lost their voice. They feel like that, that maybe the commissioner has been there when it's time for election, when it's time for him to get these votes that he needs, but then whenever it's time for their problems to be resolved, or for them to have some questions answered, or for them to get their roads done, or for them to just be able to get just simple things done that they need, they feel like they've lost their voice. As far as policy goes, whenever one of the votes, we were trying to make Columbia County a Second Amendment sanctuary city, which would have made it where if the federal government deemed it to be illegal for assault rifles and stuff like that to be illegal, and they wanted to come confiscate them, that we tried to make it where Columbia County commissioners would say, and the sheriff would back us and say, you know what, we're going to stand with the people. We're not going to allow the federal government to come in and take our assault rifles and take our weapons. And I remember that Commissioner Williams had first said, that he would agree with the government coming in and taking our weapons if they said that it was necessary to do so, which you can go back on and actually listen to that meeting. I can provide that as well. But that's one of the main ones that I'm very concerned about, because I'm a staunch supporter of our Second Amendment, and I know a lot of people in our community also are, because we have a lot of hunters. We have a lot of people who want the right to protect themselves.
Okay, Ron, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, sir. He's a bald-faced liar. I did not say that. I am an avid hunter. I own over 20 weapons. I support the Second Amendment and have always supported the Second Amendment. We have a right to bear arms, especially me having a right to bear arms, because 400 years I could not pick up an arm unless the United States was in a conflict where slaves went and fought for the cause. And after the conflict was over, they either came back, relinquished their arms, and went back to being slaves or free slaves. So for 400 years, a person like me could not bear arms. So when I got a chance to bear arms and the slaves were freed, I am a big opponent of the Second Amendment and always will be.
Okay. Do you think that you're being fairly represented in general, accurately represented in other areas by the challenger in his speeches and Facebook postings and things of that sort?
Yes, sir. I fairly represented. He made the statement just then about people have no confidence in me. I don't know who he's talking to, because he's not talking to the vast majority of the folks in District 1. When I became a county commissioner, I had over 250 miles of dirt roads in my district. I have less than 100 now. So you cannot say I have not paved roads. I grade roads. I make contact. I am a people person. During the Bugaboo Fire, during the hurricanes, during the tornadoes, I'm always out front taking care of constituents in my district. I'm just like a first responder. Instead of running away, I run to the problem.
Gotcha.
I think Commissioner Williams is referring to, when he says he's there for the people of District 1, he's referring to Winfield and not referring to the people out in Deep Creek. Because you know Winfield is not the only part of District 1, right? You have 5 Points, you have Deep Creek, which all these people out here have said the same thing, Ron. They've said that they feel like that they've lost their voice. And so maybe, I understand your concern with Winfield because all your family lives out there and stuff, but we got to be concerned as for District 1 and the county in total.
I don't have but two. My daughter and two sons live out in Winfield. Mm-hmm. I just recently, in the last 4 years, paved every road in the 5 Point area, put in new drainage, paved the roads in 5 Point. It hadn't been done, and I don't know when. I inherited a bunch of bad roads when I inherited that part of that district from Dupree, Moody, and Leadership. I went in and made the improvements there. I look out for people throughout this whole county, not just Winfield. Winfield is God's country, but District 1 is God's country also. All the way from the Georgia line to the Baker County line, I look after my people. I have the biggest district there is in the county, and people are spread throughout my district.
Okay, let's talk about policy now. We are at the mercy of the county, of the city, as you know, concerning utilities. And these days, we have a new city manager and a slightly different slate of city councilors, and everybody's getting along great. It's all groovy, peace and love, and that's great. I'm not making fun of it a bit. I don't mean to sound glib. It's a great thing, but it all seems to hinge the progress we've made lately on getting the project halfway started, at least at 47, and the Bell Road thing. It all seems to depend on everybody getting along. That's a tenuous basis on which to build a county. What do we need to do, and this is for both of you now, really, what do we need to do to get a better grasp on utilities so that it isn't a matter of somebody, I'm not saying that the city council is going to be that fickle, they're going to get their feelings hurt, but it's happened in the past, and you've seen it for 40 years. Yes. It's come and gone, up and down. I don't want it to go down again. What are we going to do to ensure that we've got a solid footing for the use of utilities for everybody, city and county alike?
Robert, you know, I feel better about Columbia County and Columbia County ability to really hit home runs when it comes to in industries located in Columbia County. We have 5 sites that at this present time we call shovel-ready. We have the warehousing property on 90 East. We have Bell Road north of Lake City. We have Ellisville. We have 47. We have the private property along Baskin Norris going to US 90. The main thing that we was short of in the past was utilities.
Right.
The Bell Road corridor is $7.5 million. That money came through grants that the county wrote grants in behalf of the county and the city. But we have prospects now that need major water usage. And if the city can't provide that for us, I hate to, but we cannot let the lackability of utilities stop Columbia County growth. If that means that we have to go into a regional utility system in this county, then we have to do what we have to do to look after our citizens, our young ones that graduate, in order to have a different job.
Is the city holding us up now? Are we slowed up in any way because the city's not coming through fast enough on water?
We are slowed up to the point that where, with the projects that we're working, that IGA, Glenn, and Krause is working with, the lines that they have now will not supply the amount of water that we need. So there's got to be a collective effort between the city to step up more in order to provide that. If I was a city councilman, my main objective would be promoting utilities throughout this county.
Right.
If the county does well, then the city does well.
So what are your thoughts on this, Kyle?
So my thoughts are that, I believe that the city is doing an okay job dealing with utilities, water in particular. I also think that if the county ended up taking over the water utilities or utilities in general, that it would end up possibly burdening the taxpayers. I think it could possibly make it where they end up having to pay for it to change over hands to the county. It could end up in some job loss. I'm not too sure about that part. A lot of people that live in the city limits that are in my district have said that they're dissatisfied with the way that the city water tastes and some of the things that they've heard about the city water being like certain chemicals that are in it, and some of them are afraid to give it to their kids and their families and stuff like that. So
I hadn't heard that, honestly. I didn't know that.
I've heard that from a couple different people. Yeah.
Okay.
But I honestly think that the city is not doing a terrible job doing the utilities.
Okay. Well, the issue wasn't, I wasn't critiquing the city like they're doing a good job or not. I'm learning as we go along here. And there's going to be a meeting about this, a joint city-county meeting, which some discussion will be had on this topic, right? But my concern is for the future. What if we had, Helfenberger's been great, but what if Helfenberger would decide someday to retire? What if new city councilors take over and they say, you know what, let's go back the old way. I'll do my thing and you do your thing to the county. And they don't want to play with us anymore. How do we grow? What, do we need a regional utility, some kind, just to ensure that we don't get left high and dry? And what would that entail?
Robert, I have people in my district that is begging for city water. I don't know where Mr. Green is getting the water tastes bad. I think the city have great water.
I like
are begging for water and sewer in the community. In one area is a 5 Point area where people are begging for water and sewer in that area. So I don't know where he's coming from when he talk about the water tastes bad and people don't want it and go put an extra burden on them. When you can't flush your toilet when it rains, you got problems. And that is what's the problem within the 5 Point area. We need water and sewer in that area so our constituents don't have to fight and worry about rain coming. When company come, it rains and they can't use the toilet.
Kyle, let me throw this at you. If Jeannie appeared and gave you 3 wishes and one of them could be, let's put a Chrysler plant out by 41 or out by I-10, would that be a good thing for us right now, or do we have the labor to support it, skilled labor to support it? Maybe not just in numbers, but in quality.
So I'm all for, bigger business coming to Columbia County, and especially we have a lot of opportunity out on 41 and District 1. But I think that it starts with, to be attractive to these big businesses to come here, we have to work on making sure that our workforce has the skills, so whenever these big businesses see, are looking at on whether or not they should come here, they see, okay, well, we have qualified individuals that are in District 1 or in this area, Columbia County, that are ready to come to work if we decide to open up here. I honestly think if we're able to get, I like focusing on small business, but if we're able to get these big plants also to come here as well, if it pays a good amount of wage, where people don't have to keep going out of city, out of town to go and make an affordable living to be able to support their family, then I'm all for it.
Well, yeah, I was kind of being facetious. I don't think we're really going to get a Chrysler plant, but I'm just saying that using that to illustrate the point of what do we need to do. I know the county commission isn't the school board, but Ron, what can the county commission do to help build a better workforce? I'm not making fun of our workers, but I've talked to a lot of employers who just talk about the lack of soft skills, about people not maybe understanding the need, the basic understanding of showing up for work on time, sober.
They don't teach that in school anymore.
Here is the solution to the problem, Robert. One might not realize that 30% of the Columbia County workforce goes out of the county to work. 30% of the workforce in Columbia County comes from out of Columbia County. We fought this battle a long time. when a company would Google the city of Lake City, they would say 10,000 people. And they say, well, that municipality don't have but 10,000 people. Our growth is in the rural area. This is what we've done to accommodate businesses with large volumes of employment. We developed something we call the Swanee Valley region. The Swanee Valley region is made up of small counties within the Swanee Valley. That's from Tallahassee to Gainesville and everything in between. That gives us a workforce of over 400,000 people to choose from, because living in a rural area like we do, people will drive 100 miles to go to work to get a good job, and they're doing that now. We are fortunate in Columbia County to have 2 great high schools. We have the workforce at Florida Crown, and we have this great university here that we can get job creation grants to train employees for the company needs that they need. So that's not my worry now. My worry now is providing the utilities to make sure that we can provide those utilities for those big companies once they come to Columbia County.
Well, I understand the need for utilities. You're right, that is first. So we finally learned to put the cart before, not before the horse.
Yes.
We were always trying to get the jobs, and we didn't have the infrastructure.
Jobs are number one for me, because we have to focus on bringing better jobs to Columbia County. Utilities are great, and they're very important, but jobs are what really people are looking at and what they need.
You can't get jobs until you get the company. And you can't get the company until you can provide the infrastructure as far as water, sewer, and natural gas for the company to be able to locate here. You can have the biggest workforce there is in this United States of America. But if you don't have the infrastructure for that company to locate, you're spinning your wheels. So we can't get the cart ahead of the horse.
Why is it taking 30 years to get, or 40 years to get that then, Ron? If you've been in office for 40 years, why is it now it's all of a sudden something needs to be done? Why not start that 40 years ago when you first started?
Well, it goes back to 1976 when Lay's Potato Chips was going to locate on this airport just north of us. And greed ran Lay's Potato Chips out of Columbia County. We didn't have the money available to put the infrastructure in. Under the 201 plan, you know what the 201 plan is? It was created in 1976. That designated the city of Lake City is the major utility supply within the county. Go to the library and pull up 201 plan, and it will tell you that. The county got bogged down on we got to go to Tallahassee and get a grant to pave a road. We got to go to Tallahassee to try to get a grant to put in utilities. We said, the heck with that. We started working together to be able to do that. We have the greatest grant writer, I believe, anywhere in the United States, in David Krause right now. Have written millions and millions of grants to put us in the position that we are in now, to be able to utilize Columbia County need to give her what she needs in order to provide decent jobs for the citizens, not only for Columbia County, but for the surrounding counties in the Swanee Valley region.
Response?
I still feel like it shouldn't have took 40 years to get this done. That really didn't answer my question. I mean, it just seems like every election, it's always something different, and so, it's always some problem and some reason why it couldn't get done before. But now I need to get reelected again so I can hurry up and get out and get this done, because I'm still making progress. I have this opportunity now to get out and start on it again, or get out and do something different.
Well, you tell the voters what you're going to do.
Sure.
Tell them how are you going to do.
Would you like my whole platform? I can give it to you right now.
No, you tell them how.
Sure.
And where are you going to get the money from to do it? I can tell everybody I'm going to put a Cadillac in their garage, but I got to have a way to pay for it. Now you tell me
Give us a
how
real
you going to pay for it and do it.
Give us a very compressed capsule of your platform.
Sure. So one of the main concerns is self-sufficiency. I want people to be able to live in Columbia County, come to Columbia County, be able to make a decent living and be able to support themselves. I want to teach them how to support themselves where they don't have to rely on the government, or local government and federal government, to be able to provide for their families. And that comes with providing resources to be able to learn how to be successful. It comes with funding places like, I know the state funds Career Source, but funding different programs like that helps individuals within our community that just want to learn how to be self-sufficient. Another thing is I want to focus on individuals with disabilities. I feel like, we do have our first ADA playground that just opened up, but we need one in District 1. Another thing, one of the biggest things is we need a new jail. That jail out there, there's people. There's an officer, I'm not going to mention his name, but he has some issues, some health issues, and he has to bring some equipment to work just so he's able to breathe because the mold's so bad in there. It's ridiculous that we have a jail also sitting directly behind 5 Points Elementary School. And I mean, there's a lot of things that I want to change in Columbia County. And I understand what you're saying, Ron, that we have to have funds to be able to do this. And it is not my intention to burden the taxpayers with all of these things that I want to do. So if there's any kind of way that I can cut different things within the budget, and not being specific, but if there's any way I can cut certain things within the budget to be able to afford these programs so where we're not giving our taxpayers burdening them more, then I want to do that. And I understand I'm not going to be able to do all this within 4 years, but I'll definitely be able to do it within 40.
Here you talk about the jail. The jail was built in 1984. The 5 Point site was picked to put the jail there. The elementary school was there. The chances are for someone coming from that jail to harm someone at the elementary school is slim and none. When a person escapes from jail, they're not going to head to town. They're going to head for the woods. Secondly, when we talked about a new jail, the new jail, I said from the start that I wasn't going to support anything over $25 million. The price came in at $35 million. At the end of financing, when the jail is paid off, it will be $42 million. Let me give you some numbers on the jail. The jail is always, nobody wants a jail, but you got to have one. We understand that. Mm-hmm. But our ad valorem taxes pay for the operation of the jail and the sheriff department. 8 years ago, the sheriff budget was just a little under $12,000. The sheriff budget now for operating the jail and law enforcement is over $16 million. 8.015 mills bring in roughly $23 million. So 2/3 of the ad valorem taxes, which you don't pay any, pays for the jail. And you cannot do that. You cannot burden the people of Columbia County for $42 million to build a jail.
Well, Ron, let me ask you this. So this hybrid version they're going to build, this where they're going to prop up the old one, what's that going to end up costing, you think? What's the realistic ultimate price on that?
Somewhere.
Because a lot of people are saying, that's going to be 40 mil too.
No. It's that they're going to run somewhere between $22 and $25 million.
Okay.
To renovate that jail and build a part on.
Okay.
Is what that would cost.
So, Ron, I got a question for you. So you don't think the jail sitting directly behind 5 Points Elementary School is a risk to students?
No, sir.
You don't.
It haven't been.
Okay.
It have not been.
Just wanted to get that clarified on camera. Okay.
Let's move on. Let's move to something a little more mundane. How has this COVID changed the way you campaign? You've been doing this 40 years. You go door to door. Are you still going door to door?
No, sir. Robert, this year have been a very unusual campaign season. Mm-hmm. Not only for local politics, but politics nationwide. Mm-hmm. From the president race down. Mm-hmm. They are having to change the way we do things. Mm-hmm. Instead of going door to door, I want to respect those families that live in my district for their safety. And I want to be safe.
How are you getting your message out then?
My message is going out during vote by mail. I mail out 1,700 flyers.
Okay.
Tomorrow, 6,000 flyers will be going out.
Okay.
That's how I'm making contact with the voters of my district.
And how are you handling this?
Yeah. So
is it harder on the challenger because you may not have the name recognition automatically, and you've got to make initial contact with people? Is that harder?
Not so much, actually. I've been working on name recognition for a couple of years now, and I feel like I've done a pretty good job of that. I would say COVID has definitely had a big impact on campaigning. As Ron said, actually, I agree with him on that we've both tried to remain respectful of not going to people's houses as much to infect them if we could have that. But Facebook and social media has been a really, really great tool for reaching out to people. And
Let me ask you one more thing, and I'm going to try to ask this of each group tonight. I've got a prediction. I think the incumbents are all going to answer this question a certain way, and I think the challengers are all going to answer this question a different way. When you go around and talk to people in the countryside, or when you do run into people at the grocery store, whatever, you talk to them, would you say, broadly speaking, the people of this town are generally pessimistic or optimistic about the future of this county and their own economic futures? Now, forget the COVID. I mean, a lot of people are under great stress right now because they can't pay their rent, and I know that. But I mean, say before this happened, what was the mood of the county in recent months?
Robert, we'll have to go back to the latter part of last year.
Okay.
Because as you know, the COVID, the pandemic.
That's what I'm talking about. Let's forget COVID for just a minute, if we could. What's generally the tone and tenor and the mood of this county?
People in the county, they believe it or not, they're educated. They keep up what's going on, and they are real enthused about the city and county beginning to work together.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing I hear. You guys finally started getting your head out the dirt and working together for the betterment of Columbia County, Lake City and Columbia County.
Fair enough. We're almost out of time.
yeah, sure. I
Go
would
ahead and
say,
give me your thoughts.
yeah, I think people are pretty optimistic whenever they view the future of Columbia County. They know that change is coming one way or another,
Okay.
and it's going to be here at our doorstep pretty soon. So I think people are pretty optimistic, and they believe that the best is going to come to Columbia County.
Okay, that's it. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break. We'll be back in 5 minutes with District 3. We'll have a full house for that. All 4 candidates are here. Hang on. This is District 3 County Commission. I'm Robert Bridges, editor of the Lake City Reporter, and the candidates with me here are, to my far left, Jeff Tyre, Charlie Keith, Robbie Hollingsworth, Bucky Nash. Let's get started. This question's for all of you. You can respond as you wish, and you can all join in. This is probably the most critical question we've got, in my view, and that's that it's just all peace and love with the city right now, since we have a new city manager, and things are going so much better, and that's a good thing. And I probably shouldn't be looking it in the mouth, but it worries me a little bit that what if we were to have a change in personnel? Does our ability to have utilities for future economic development projects depend on our having a good, warm, cordial relationship with the individuals who happen to be running the city? Is there something we need to do to look at that more thoroughly, to establish maybe something more formal, a structure where maybe we have a say in how the utilities are used here?
Absolutely, Robert. For years, we've operated under basically a one government utility, and we have to look into the future, 10, 15 years, what we're going to do. I believe that we have to look into a regional utility group where the county and the city both are vested in the improvements to the utilities. We need help in that area. We need someone that can lead the utilities into the future. It's outside the expertise of local government. We need professionals, and we're behind on utilities, road repairs. We're behind on a lot of things, but we've got to have a commitment and planning. That's critical to the growth of Columbia County.
What are the rest of y'all's thoughts on
Well,
utilities?
there's got to be some kind of interlocal agreement between the two. Again, if we go to a regional utility basis, let's say we're going to hire some private outfit to come in here who's probably a little more efficient. I'm a firm believer that private industry is generally way more efficient than government. That being said, how much each group, whether it be the city or the county, pay based on their tax base, but it's a simple fix at that point. Again, I'm kind of like Charlie. At some point, we outgrow the local expertise of the guys that have been running pipe here or doing whatever. At some point, we've got to think. I've seen in Marion County. Marion County is an absolute joke because they exploded and nobody could think fast enough to make it work. I mean, you can't put your GPS in Marion County because there's 14 roads named the same thing and they're all in different locations.
So what are the political implications of this? I mean, go ahead.
You have GRU, you have JEA. Those came about when counties grew bigger, and we do have to get along. Everybody has to to be working toward the same goal. You can't have petty differences and petty things here and there. And if we don't have utilities, we're not going to attract big business. It's not going to happen. And until we have a more professional utilities, no cut on the city or anything like that, but we need an outside organization, private business, because they can do it right, because they make a living at it. And we have to just all get together and make an effort to foster that and be open to it. And some people will, probably be bothered by it, but it's just something you have to do to modernize.
What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, it's because we are, the county in their economic development, we're moving faster than the city can keep up. But the infrastructure on Bell Road, once you put it in, you're going to be able, the spinoffs of the Warner trucking, you're going to be able to do more and more. But so that infrastructure will be in. And the relationship with the city and the county is just now getting going. And to jump out and do a regional utility, that's something down the road, and we can learn from other people's mistakes.
Right.
But right now, the city is trying, because you also have to add, we're taking them outside of their box of just providing utilities for the city. Now we're wanting to go out here to the mega site, and we're come up with a $10 million water sewer plant. Now we're going to go out here to Bell Road, and now we want to go out there to 47. We're putting a lot on their plate to do. I think, as everybody said, the regional utilities is down the road, but you can't hang your hat on that right now, because these are all things, irons that we have in the fire that we got to finish up today to get the economic growth that everybody desires in Columbia County.
And one more thing is, I heard it earlier when Ron and Kyle were talking, and we were talking about the whole, what came first, the chicken or the egg, and people talk about housing and it being an issue. Well, today we want everybody to have city water and city sewer every time we build a new development. But at the same time, private industry or private money is not going to come in here and develop homes till the jobs are here. They're not going to build them and have them sitting there waiting. So again, that whole city water, city sewer issue has got to be something that can move quickly.
And it has to be in a continuum, just like with when we're trying to get businesses in here. We can't just say come and we don't have anything going or set up. We can't set it up ahead of time, but we can get it to where we're ready, and we're ready to move on it. Just like Bucky said, we have a big organization coming in here. If we overload and then we're behind again. We have to keep ahead of the game as much as we can, but it's cost a lot of money, and you're going to have to convince somebody that a utility that they'll make the money.
Yeah, I wasn't beating up on the city. I'm just looking ahead to the future. The cast can change, and we're in a tenuous position right now. Bucky, what is going on with 47? Are we where we should be now, or should that be going faster?
Should be going a little faster. We got to get sewer out there.
Because I understand, and I'm not going to say the name here, but everybody knows it probably, but there's a major retailer
Yes.
just looking to go in there and ready to go.
And we're working with them as the kick ladder deal's going down 242, and they're working. That's what I'm saying. See, we keep adding and adding and adding. A little overload there, but once you get the sewer out there, that could be the next 90. It should be the next 90 because
That's what we've been saying for a while. But what's the timeline now? What are we looking at for when we might have that up and running? I heard somebody the other day, one of your fellow commissioners, say 3 years still. Is that?
No, I'd cut that in half.
Good.
Year and a half.
Okay.
I mean, because everybody knows, and because you're going to have the private industry pushing that, and then the commissioners will get involved, and we'll come up with a way to get it done.
Okay. This next question is for just you, and you. At the rally at the fairgrounds a couple weeks back, it was said that some of y'all, I don't remember exactly how it was phrased, but some of y'all, I think some of the younger ones of y'all maybe, may not be quite as talented as you think at reading and understanding a county budget. What's y'all's response to that?
Well, I can just, for myself, again, I don't have the institutional knowledge that Bucky has. I mean, Bucky's been there for 8 years. There's no way I'm going to have that knowledge. I do know enough about it to know this, that, we're building a new jail. We're, we, in a sense, gave the money back to the taxpayer with the garbage fee that's built into our millage rate. And, you know, you look at some of the things, and we hear we're short, you know, due to COVID, $3.5 million. And 2 years ago, we wanted to raise taxes, and we tried the property tax route, we tried the sales tax route, and they both failed. But yet today, it's kind of like we're spending money like we don't have an issue. Well, we didn't raise taxes, so why did we need to raise them 2 years ago?
You know, a budget is a budget. You know, people know it's balancing a checkbook. It's taking in money, knowing how much money you're going to have, trying to figure out how much COVID is going to change everything. And 2 years ago, they wanted us to vote for a sales tax. It failed by more than a 2/3 vote because it wasn't presented correctly. There's no sunset put on it. It wasn't explained, I don't feel like, because we went to town halls. Well, you know, I don't believe that the people want town halls. Most people have to work. They have to take their kids to school, pick them up to school. We got things going on that people can't always come to town halls. I think it's a commissioner's responsibility to get out in the district. Go ride your district. I rode every bit of it since this campaign started. It's not hard to stop and talk to people. You talk to 200 or 300 people in a month very easily, and you get a little more feel for what, you get your finger on their pulse, and you know what they want, what they will do, and what they won't do. But it's obvious that nobody wanted that sales tax.
Right.
I don't know why, it just wasn't sold correctly, and I don't know that we need it, because like you said, we gave $4 million away, which is for COVID. We gave $3 million to road improvement, and then we have about a $3.5 million deficit that we can know of. That's $10 million. Now, 2 years ago, we needed $7 million to improve roads. Now we've given away, we've spent $10 million this year. That's a lot of money. So the budget is it's really kind of hard to read. It's not as transparent as you think. It seemed like it would be, but nobody can know as well as a sitting commission, because they're the ones that set it, and they're the ones that pull the money from here and put it in there. It's just, but a budget is no, any taxpayer that balances a checkbook can balance a budget. It's just, you have to be ready for the contingencies and the different things.
Robert, another thing on the budget, if you look at a set of numbers and then you see the problems in the county, you would see a commitment in the budget. You would see money moved into the Transportation Trust Fund for the roads. So when we have year-end funds left over, 2/3 of it went into the general budget that can be used on capital projects and stuff. And here's the problem we have with capital projects. We don't know what they are. They're just capital projects listed. And I'm sure when they go over them, they do. But the staff should make changes to the budget that shows the people capital project was a fence at a ball field, a sidewalk by a school.
Would that just be a simple matter of annotating the budget? Or is it more complicated?
Well, a lot of it would. I mean, from a transparency standpoint, again, average Joe voter has no idea what any of these capital projects are. They have none.
Did you start to say something, Bucky?
Yeah, the thing about it is what they're saying is not necessarily true. Because if you go back and look at our workshop budgets, we go line item by line item on capital projects, where they are, if they're complete, if they're not complete, and different stuff. There's just so many of them. With your grants, the sewer plant, I mean, there's just so many of them that they're budgeted. And when you're talking about a budget, a government budget is different than a household budget. You have restricted funds, you have, you know, things that are earmarked that have to stay within that. The $4 million that talked about for the garbage is money that we put in the garbage landfill for planning to build the cell, which is going to take place in 2 or 3 years. We're planning ahead, so we said, hey, we can give tax relief to the citizens of Columbia County, and in 3 years we'll build that money back, and it'll be no cost to anybody. So those are things. When you say, now, do these 3 gentlemen here, do I have 100% faith in 8 years could they understand the budget? Sure. I mean, in 1 year, 2 years. But it's not something that you just arbitrarily just jump right into.
I understand.
And just like when they talk about the 1 cent sales tax. The 1 cent sales tax came about when they want to do the jail. Well, okay, we'll do the 1 cent sales tax. That'll give us $3 or $4 million to put towards the $60 million road deficit and $3 or $4 million to build a jail. 68% of the citizens of Columbia County said no. And when you talk about sunset, you can't sunset something that you're going to sign up for 15 years mortgage. So the sunset was a bunch of misinformation anyway.
Well, but again, why couldn't you put the sunset at the end of the 15-year mortgage? But regardless, there needed to be an end.
There's too many times that we put a tax and it never goes away.
Well,
we have to do that. We have to show the taxpayer what we're doing and why we're doing it, because they're not going to trust you. If they think a tax is just going to stay on forever, it was specifically for a certain thing, and you have to stop it.
Well, and I also believe, too, and it's kind of like Robbie said earlier, and he and I have talked about it before, is, you know, and this is my personal belief, and Bucky, you tell me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like every commissioner on the board was for the jail. Everything was good till they couldn't, and we came out with the property tax idea, and then we realized that wasn't a real good idea because everybody hated that. Then we come up with the sales tax idea, and I believe that if we sold it correctly and explained to the average taxpayer that it's about $20 a year, and let me show you how much somebody else that doesn't live here is going to help you pay for this jail or road improvements or all those things, I think if it had been sold correctly, it'd have been passed. But again, even then, it's still got to have an end date, you know.
So how do you campaign during a pandemic? I mean, everybody knows in a small town like this, you go door to door and you press the flesh and you ask them for your vote. So can you still do that, or you risk freaking people out, or what are y'all doing?
We all dealt with that, and early on, I said, you know what? First, I stood at neighborhoods, you know, and then I said, you know, I think I can do this without, you know, being disrespectful to people's health. So I did a door hanger, and I put on there, out of respect for your health, you know, don't want to see you in person, but call me if you need me anytime. And I think it worked real well. I think that I went to every home in my district, every super voter in my district, and I want to go to every home in the district. It's just hard to do in that amount of time because it took a while to figure out what we were going to do. And I didn't have anybody that said, oh, I don't want that. Most of the time, most of the older voters, they walked out there and grabbed it for me, from me, you know, and it worked out really well, and I enjoyed it.
And I agree with him. I mean, I've knocked on pretty much 2,500 doors, and I probably got 80 or 100 of his door hangers because he had his. I took his off and put mine on. But you know, when you
mine were prettier than his.
When you go up there, you know, it's a matter of, like if I went up to Charlie, he's going to dictate to me whether he wants to receive me or not.
I understand.
I'm respectful, and I just, if they're not there, I hang it on their door and I leave.
So do y'all feel you're able to get your message out?
No. Yes and no. I'm kind of like Charlie.
Okay.
This is the first opportunity, and everybody's wanting to just tear up, speak.
Right.
We're trying to keep it constructive, but no, it's the first campaign for us.
Right.
So I would assume it's different even for Bucky with the circumstance.
Yeah.
We tried some things like texting. We thought that was respectful. We wouldn't have to go to the houses. We got some good response. We got some negative response. So it's difficult to respect people's privacy and still get your message out. We threw a little rally at the fairgrounds one weekend. We didn't have a great turnout. We were disappointed. We got to meet a lot of people and give some thoughts, but just by that tells you the people aren't ready to congregate and come together like that. So no, it's difficult.
I'm sure it is.
I've done a lot of phone calls. I've used social media, but again, and again, everybody here knows I'm not knocking them because I really do have the utmost respect for you guys. But me, you know, I work a lot. You know, I mean, I'm a registered nurse, so, you know, when I'm on shift, I work 12 hours a day. Them days are just gone. There's no opportunity. I go to work 6 o'clock in the morning and I get home about 7. So, you know, the only days I have to interact with people and those things, you know, they're somewhat limited. And again,
I'll tell you what, though, what you don't realize is when you do it the way we did it, because we didn't really knock on doors as much as we did leave the door hanger, and people appreciate it. You'd walk up, you'd see them in there eating dinner, you'd lay it on there, and they appreciated you not bothering them. You know, so it's not as hard as you think it is. You can go. I was doing 150 homes in 3 hours. I mean, that's just moving really quick. So it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought that it was going to take a lot longer.
Let me tell you something else that I've deduced about this group right here, this race. This is a fiercely contested race. You've got some sharp differences in views, but it's one of the cleaner races I've seen. Not just superficially, not just to each other's face, but I don't hear the whisper campaigns. I don't hear the crap, people's, the cowardly stuff behind the scenes. Knowing all y'all personally the way I do, I never would have expected that, but it's been one of the cleaner campaigns that I've seen in a long time.
Winning in this,
You seem to be
winning this
respectful of
office.
one another, and I think that comes through.
Well,
Winning
it
this
does. I
office.
mean, I know all these guys. One thing I'm not going to do, I'm not going to run a race and then be an enemy with one of these gentlemen after it's over, because it's not about us, it's about the taxpayers.
Sure.
When you get nasty, you lose all respect from everybody.
Right.
It's just something I'm not going to do. It's not worth the job to me.
No,
to be
no,
nasty
that's true.
sometimes.
But often when people don't get nasty, they go too far the other direction, and they're just milquetoast. Y'all are very forthright in saying, "I would have done this that way."
Oh, yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem calling
We can
anything.
disagree and be friends.
Right,
That's
exactly.
what
What
you
you
hope.
That's not everybody knows that.
What you hope, Robert, is the community can see in the person, see the integrity, that they want to do something for the community. That's the sole desire in my campaign.
And I don't think
is I wanna do
anybody
something
here
for the community.
doesn't want to
So
do something for the community.
I respect
It's just a
everybody
fact.
sitting here, and I refuse to run a negative
No,
campaign.
I don't think
only
any of y'all
want
would
to
do
talk
that.
about
It's been good.
what we can do
I'm just going on the
forward.
record saying I think it's a good thing. Let me ask you this now. I said last time I was going to ask every group this, and I had it all in my head that the incumbent's going to answer a certain way and the challengers a different way. It didn't work out that way last time, but just starting with you, Jeff, or y'all just jump in the way we've been.
Yeah.
What's the mood of the county? Now, forget COVID for just a minute. There are people under such stress right now. A lot of them may be about to lose their homes. So go back 6 months or 8 months or whatever, and how it's been for the last few years. Are people generally upbeat about their economic future in Columbia County?
I think-
or do they see better times coming? Or have they plateaued, or are they just down? Is there a trend at all?
I think that people are upbeat. I don't think that, when you get and you go and you talk to them, they love county politicians. They want to see us. They want to see you, just like they want to see you every day when you're elected. They want you to come and see them. They want to know that their commissioners, touring the town, making sure that what they need, and you can ride through their neighborhoods. They like to see you. But there is a very pessimistic attitude toward the federal government.
Oh,
and
yeah,
that's
I
all
don't care about that. I'm talking about local
But as far as
government.
local
And not
politics,
just
I think
government, not just-
everybody's in a great mood. I think
Not just
they-
politics, but I mean their economic
Yeah,
stake in the future.
You've got both issues in local opinion. You've got people that are doing well, but you've got a workforce that's underpaid, and they feel left out.
And I agree.
They don't think that the county thinks about them. They're very depressed, and I've brought up several times that we need to look at compensation for county employees, and it falls by the wayside. Swanee County can do it. They're smaller than us. Swanee County's way ahead of us
Swanee
in
pays
vocational
more than we
training.
do for comparable jobs for county employees.
I think a lot of them,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. I mean, from police officers, firemen, Swanee County starting to fire $10,000 a year more than we're paying.
What do we start at?
So, I don't know, the sheriff's department, I think, is
About
33. I'm not
yeah,
sure
I know it's low 30s.
what the fire department is. But sheriff's department's got step programs. It's complicated by years, but there is a depressed part of the community
Yes.
that works so hard to keep their head above water that they don't have time to complain.
No.
And a lot of them stay for just the insurance. It's amazing that
Yeah.
a lot of people
Right.
working in the county are there for the insurance, and sometimes the insurance is as much or more what the check they take.
Is this almost like
It's
is there a
really-
permanent underclass being created
Yeah,
in our
let's see if
county?
they can
I think so. And
Absolutely.
here's what I'm going to tell you. One of the main reasons I'm running, of course, I'm big on economic development. I'm big on the youth of this county. I'm big on them having, an opportunity when they get out of high school to go get a decent paying job and make a living. Just on the way here, stopped at the S&S store. A girl went to high school with. She's got a bachelor's degree. She's working 3 part-time jobs right now. Those kind of people, no, they're not real optimistic. I think when you look at the upper middle class, if you want to call it that, in Lake City, most of them, because they have stable jobs that pay a good, decent living wage, yes, they're upbeat. You know, they believe if they're, from whatever national politic perspective they do, if it goes their way, they feel like they're going to keep doing as well as they're doing. But like Charlie said, those people probably from $30,000 down, no, they're not real optimistic because they don't see anything. I mean, we can tell them about Bell Road, but they haven't seen it yet. They hadn't went and got a job there yet.
But see, the thing about it, the leaders got to be optimistic because you got to do it to bring the $30,000 employees along. And it's the optimists are the people that lead us. You bring in the economic development, you provide the training, you get the workforce, just like utilities. Everybody's got to get on board, and it's a team effort, everybody. And that's why these four are separated besides, because they want to be leaders and they want to attack these things. But like Jeff says, I'm 100% that's with the youth, and you get the youth, and then you get the family orientation, and you provide the income for everybody to live and be happy.
So, Bucky, one thing we've got to do, though, is we've got to show a commitment to vocational training.
Right.
Yes.
We don't support the veterans anymore. We put money into the Humane Society, but we dropped the veterans.
Well, let's talk about the veterans thing
We
for a minute.
have to know and go with the college. We got a regional college here, which is a blessing to this small county, and we have a school system that's willing to help educate.
Right.
And it all
And we
comes.
have a lot
We're
of
all
private
talking in a circle,
industry
really,
that's willing
because
to
we want
help
better jobs,
educate.
but economic development is what brings that about, and education.
I'll finish on this. The veterans, what the Board of County Commissioners budget for the veterans is what the veterans guide us to do. As far as they want a full-time employee, 2 full-time employees, we will provide that.
But I think from what I've heard, the complaint is maybe the people that are in those jobs providing those services are saying the need isn't there. But yet the veterans are saying, no, the need's
And the
there, and
VA,
those
and
people
I've
don't know
spoken
any
with
way
the
how to
VA.
help
Yeah.
them.
I've spoken with the VA, and they said we
That
need
will
more
be-
help.
Folks,
That will be
we're out of
addressed.
time. I'm sorry, this is a great discussion. I wish we could go on longer. Folks, we'll be back in 5 minutes with District 5. Welcome back, folks. I'm Robert Bridges, editor of the Lake City Reporter. This is the third and final segment of the night for the Lake City Reporter Candidate Forum. These are the last of the county commission candidates. This is a hard-fought race, District 5. To my left is challenger Brandon Beal. To my right is incumbent Tim Murphy. What we're going to do in the first part of this, since this is such a policy-driven debate that surrounded this particular campaign, we're going to go through some of the assertions made by the challenger, and we're going to give the incumbent a chance to respond, and we're going to illuminate some of these issues. So if you'd like to start, I'd like to talk, you've brought up several times an issue about a portable.
Yes, sir.
So why don't you explain that and talk about it, and then Tim can respond as he sees fit.
So I believe it was the beginning of 2019, or the end of 2019 when the portable was brought in. In 2018, it was RFP was put out to get quotes for a portable building to be put at the county road department, and that portable now houses one county employee. It's a 1,200 square foot building that houses one county employee who's the county engineer. To put it in perspective, the president's Oval Office is 800 square foot. The idea behind it was to have more employees in there if the sales tax would have passed, the sales tax increase would have passed, or the property tax, which would have given $7 million in dedicated funding to road projects. However, when that didn't pass, I went back and listened to the December 6, 2018 meeting, whenever that RFP was put out, and it was being discussed, and the assistant county manager said that he was fine. He said that he did agree with Commissioner Nash that the space would be needed in the future, but he also agreed with Commissioner Williams that the space was not needed at this time, and that he was fine. So he didn't necessarily need it, and now we have one county employee in the 1,200 square foot office building.
Okay, I won't waste the tax dollars and the time for the constituents, and I'm not going to bog you up with this. It's just this simple. The building was designed for the engineering office. The building now, as it did day one, houses utilities division, houses your county engineer. I'm going to cut through the chase. It's just this simple. Assistant County Manager Kevin Kirby did not like the idea of us going out there and putting another adjacent building out there beside it. Here's when Tim Murphy stepped in, looking out for your tax dollars. It was just this simple. The budgeted amount for 500 and something square feet, people, now pay attention to this real close, was $250 a square foot. That's when I personally took it upon myself, went and met with a local mobile home manufacturer, and just started doing my research. What you elected me to do, look out for your tax dollars. We've got a 1,200 square foot building out there. My opponent's been running all over town. Listen to this one, listen to that one. We work in this space, we work in that space. We're building for the future. The building to date is probably somewhere around $124,000. It's not a portable. It is a modular building that was sent out on a nationwide bid, and this company in North Carolina is the one. Our local people decided, for whatever reason it may have been, they did not bid on it. We did our diligence. And people, I look at it this way. I made a deal early on my tenure with the school board. They were going to throw away 3 portables over there. Fred Gaylord, me and him put a little agreement there. I took it to the Board of County Commissioners. We now got one residing in Columbia City for our building. This building is probably 35 years old. It's still structurally sound. That's where we vote at in Columbia City. This is spending your tax dollar diligently. The whole thing in a nutshell, it was just this simple for Tim Murphy. You're going to spend $250 a square foot for a 500 square foot, 3-block building, or are we going to go over there and build for the future? And when engineering department needs that next person to go over there, as it was before when Corey McCray went to the outside to be our road inspector, there will be a position coming up in the future to where that what Corey McCray used to do in the engineering department will take place. This is your tax dollars. This is Tim Murphy looking out for what the future of Columbia County holds. And the whole thing in a nutshell is if you go back and look at all the meetings, it plainly was stated by the county manager. It was plainly stated by the assistant manager, as what Mr. Brandon Bill says here. They both said we needed the space. Everybody tried to cover it up when the infrastructure tax failed, but the truth is your tax dollars were spent promptly and provided you services and room for the future.
The problem with that, though, is now we're air conditioning it, we're maintaining that building. I understand building for the future, and we need to look to the future, but if it's not necessary at this point in time, I feel like we're wasting the money. And in that December 6, 2018 meeting, Commissioner Murphy stated that he had done his research, and I believe he does. He looks into things, and said that the quotes he got was either $60,000 or $66,000 for a building and $2,000 for flooring. We ended up paying $124,600 and some odd dollars for this building that, again, at that time isn't necessary, that we're still maintaining and air conditioning.
And again, I'll go on to say, get a P&L on it, exactly, understand each and everything. There was a parking space put out there, was not necessary, probably $5,000, $6,000. All the computers that was going to go in the other room are in this room also. So if you're going to compare apples to apples, let's understand exactly what we're looking at. And just to make sure let everybody understand, even this building, if you'd have built that 500-something square feet, you're going to be heating and air conditioning it also. You're going to be putting computers, what have you, in it. This is tough. This is a tough decision business here. Assistant county manager come back with another plan that no commissioner had no idea whatsoever. Commissioner Rocky Ford put forth he made the request that we send out for a modular building only. Mr. Bill is correct. I went and sat down with a local man, and just in a 10-minute conversation, I think give us something on this. Give me an idea what these kind of things cost. The gentleman, I'm not going to throw his name in the middle of this, his and my conversation was probably about 30 minutes that he'd come up with, well, if you do this, you maybe $6,000. But I don't have a set of drawings. So that's why in government you got to go through the procedure. You've got to send out your RFPs. You got to be engineered, 130-mile-an-hour wind load and all this. So irregardless, if we're talking about pennies in the whole scheme of things. We're talking about a building that's going to be with Columbia County for the next 30 to 40 years.
You're right, it is pennies in the whole scheme, the grand scheme of things as far as the budget's concerned. However, it's not my money, it's not your money, it's the taxpayers' money,
Okay.
and if it's not necessary.
Let's move on to your next point. What's one of your next concerns? You've talked about
I've talked about the what I call the tax debacle of 2018.
the sales tax. Talk about
Sales
that.
tax. In 2018, the county commission put before the voters a referendum on the ballot to increase the sales tax by 1%. I call it a threat. Mr. Commissioner Murphy called it an option, which is true. It was another option to have, if the sales tax did not go through, that the commission would increase the property tax, the ad valorem tax. To me, it's a threat because when both options have the same end result, which is higher taxes, there's not much of an option. It's higher taxes or higher taxes. I don't like the way that it was done as far as the town halls where it was selling the idea of a sales tax increase. There was no sunset clause put into it. Poor planning from the very beginning. Sure, it would have added $7 million a year that we could have used for the jail and for road improvements.
And Mr. Bill is exactly right. We went into that thing on the advice of staff, our attorneys out of Tallahassee, when we did the research on how do you get to these types of dollars. And we did our diligence. And I said it in a public meeting. I'll say it again. We probably should have experienced putting a sunset on there. But when you're sitting here looking at an $80 million deficit throughout this county, roads, I'm just talking about roads, people, roads, bridges, and all the infrastructure, repairs, nothing new now, just repairs. Sitting there as a commissioner, when you're working on about a $60 million a year budget, plus all your other economic development issues and what have you, there's only so many dollars you can get out of cent. And I think it was put into the taxpayers' in the taxpayers' hands, and they rejected it. Me and Mr. Bridges here had many, many discussions about it during that time. But the taxpayers, they decided that this was not the way to go. Now, the threat, I've heard this. Bring it to me. Board of County Commissioners never threatened the taxpayers of Columbia County. If you don't do this, we're going to raise your taxes. It was simply put as though that the other options in order to acquire these types of dollars was going to, could involve an ad valorem increase. But myself as a commissioner, I'm smart enough to realize that you go up there and you do a half meal, it generates $2 million, people. The ad valorem does not drive the budget that we have to deal with each and every day. Is it important? Absolutely sure it is. But my point is simple, is that it's easy to sit there and say, well, let's go over here and right now, today, Columbia County, we're 7 cents on our fuel tax right here in Columbia County. We've got another 5 cents that we can add on to this. But that sales tax on fuel only generates this amount right here. So what did we do? We had to go in there and make some very, very tough decisions. The 39% budget-based budgeting that was set up as a exploratory issue back when Dale Williams was commissioner, way before I was commissioner, we tried it. We worked. It's, as I said in the public meeting, it's unsustainable. The dollar amounts are going up when you get your targets and this, that, and another. And Sheriff Hunter doing the great job he has done, he's kept crime low, so it was made more sense to take this dollar and go over here and invest it in your infrastructure. This is the first budget year in almost 15 years that Columbia County has taken your tax dollars and put it to play in your community. Just in District 5, we're out there right now, put asphalt on the ground today. I got turned down with DOT for the first 3 years on Wester and Finley Road. 2 of the worst roads in District 5, hands down. We're paving it today with the hard-earned taxpayer dollars that you, the taxpayer, provided to us as commissioner.
We're kind of getting off topic here. We're still talking about the sales tax and the ad valorem tax, and the next year, after a candidate for county commission in 2018 who won election, it was talked about that the county would lower the ad valorem taxes $500,000 over the full mill over the next 2 years, $500,000 each year. There was an opinion piece by the Lake City Reporter that said it's sprouting off for, short-term political gain. And it's kind of what it seems like is that we have these grand ideas and we're talking about roads and building roads, but we're also saying we're $80 million behind in infrastructure. Where does that fall on? Who does that fall on? That's on the current leadership or lack thereof for not managing the taxpayer dollars properly years
And
years
Mr. Bill is
ago.
100% right. I can't help what other county commissioners sit there and say that I want to lower the ad valorem 1 mil, half mil. I can't control that. Now, I think Mr. Bridges' assistant, asked me one time, when that plan was brought to me, if it would ever be brought to me, yes, I'd look at it. I owe it to the taxpayers of Columbia County to look at every option whatsoever to lower the tax base in their pocket. Now, did we do that? Absolutely not, because it's plain and simple. Now, he alludes to another commissioner that's ran and become a good commissioner in Columbia County that, live within our means. We did. And that's why we had to make that tough decision to reallocate that 39% budget base that we had to for the sheriff to put that money to work for Columbia County citizens. And be it known, in the 4 years that I've been here, every single penny has been funded. That's requested through the Columbia County Sheriff's Office, because that's where we need to keep every single dollar we got. Whatever the sheriff needs, within means, he's been a very, very diligent sheriff. We're going to continue to fund the needs of our sheriff's department here in Columbia
Okay,
County.
let's talk about the airport. The airport's owned by the city. But my God, what a boon that could be if we could to make good use of it. Now, they've done a good job, I think, in some ways. Even the previous city manager had done a good job in building it up, preparing it, but we're not anywhere near, and they'll be glad to admit if you ask them, any of the city officials, making the full use of it that we can. Where do you see the airport in 10 years?
10 years, Robert, personally, I see it as being a cargo hub. You look around, you travel to a lot of these conventions that we go to, talk to these other commissioners, some of the issues they face in southern Florida, West Florida, what have you. We're sitting on a golden egg right here. It's just that simple. We've got Joe Helfenberger, the city manager. I'll give him a little toot right now. He's already got plans in plans, hoping to do an extension, even turning this airport into the number one. As everybody knows, Brandon, me, everybody was running around town that day. Whenever the 911 crisis took place, some of the biggest, baddest jets in the world were landing in Columbia County. We can do it, but with this cargo hub, heavier loads, with an extension that he has in the site, which will also in play with the mega site that we have out here. Personally, I think we've got a golden opportunity to sit here and turn this thing into a mega site cargo hub, because I challenge anybody, just take an hour or two out of you go to Jacksonville Airport, go to the commercial end of it there, it's total chaos. Now you got Amazon sitting over there on the side of it, it's even 10 times worse than that. But the opportunity lies in with the infrastructure plans that are in place as of now. It's nothing's going to do but get better. This airport is going to take us into another turn in history.
I agree. I think that we're obviously geographically situated in a perfect storm situation where we can attract businesses. I've talked on the campaign about a smart, balanced economic development, and there's three main points to economic development. That's infrastructure, housing, and with housing goes the workforce and education. We have to educate the workforce. We have to have the workforce in our community to support the industry, and we have to have the infrastructure ready and available day one whenever the business says they're ready. We talk about shovel-ready sites. To me, a shovel-ready site means that there is water right there, maybe sewer as well. For these big companies, you're going to have sewage as well, right there at the site. Not 10 miles away, right there. To call it a shovel-ready site, in my opinion, means it's ready. They're ready to start building on day one.
Okay.
And I agree 100%. Shovel-ready sites that's an attracting factor. When we talk to these site selectors all over the country, first thing they're going to ask, sewage, water, gas. What you got? Right here, sitting where this college sits, we're sitting on go. You got sewage, you got gas, you got water. You got all your amenities sitting right here. We got our budget, our capital expenditure budget went up $10 million last year. Absolutely 100% totally the truth. $10.3 million grant given by the state of Florida for our wastewater plant out here in the mega site. So, yes, we're building it here. I heard in the previous discussion with the commissioners, 47. I just want to emphasize something real quick. The 47 sewage project, the city is doing everything they can possibly do with the time frame that they had to do it in. This grant is an old grant. Now, why it took so long to get there, don't have a clue. But Robert, I think you can very much remember when I first became county commissioner, I called one of the first economic summits ever held in Columbia County, right out here in this room out here. Total success. It put us and the city back in the talking procedure. We've made a lot of accomplishments, but don't forget something about 47. And nobody sitting in this room or on this TV will realize the impact of what 47 will be to Columbia County in the next 5 years. That is an environmental grant that's going on out there. We cannot tie no sewage line to that whatsoever until that grant is completed, and they are sending sewage to Kicklighter because in the grant it distinctly says it cannot have any types of economic ties-ins to it whatsoever.
I understand. What's the timeline now?
We should be building, the city should be digging holes. I talked to Paul Dow today, January. Literally, I know I heard Mr. Nash say something about a year and a half. And the one thing, and I know it's easy to say because I'm just as guilty as anybody else in this community, what the heck takes so long? Well, until you get in here and you walk down these halls and you go to Tallahassee and you talk to this one, then you got Swanee River over here at DEP, and I'm not going to bore the people with it, but there's a lot of processes in this. I mean, you've had a discussion, a pile of processes in this. You got to meet all this criteria. They're doing good, and we've got a $1.5 million CDGPT grant sitting out there at 47, just sitting there waiting to go. You know, and the gentleman that's going to be awarded the grant that has taken advantage of the grant, he's going to be guaranteeing 40, 50 jobs off of this thing. So it's a ever-evolving race here, and we're doing, in my opinion, we're staying on top of it. And Brandon's right. You got to plan 10 years down the road, and I agree with Brandon and everybody else in this room. 15 years ago, we weren't sitting there having these kind of conversations. Years ago, I sat right out here in one of the old buildings here when Scott Reynolds came as a collective group with the city and talked about centralized utilities. If we'd have took a grasp of that back then, who knows how many miles down the road we've been.
Where do we stand on utilities is the critical issue,
Absolutely.
like we've been discussing all night. I mean, the city's doing great, not to disparage them at all, but it could easily occur that we get a new regime there, maybe years down the road, and it reverts back. If you talk to somebody, you talk to Ron Williams, who's been here 40 years, he's seen it go up and down. Where we are right now, this great relationship with them, it's possible. It could have different
Commissioner
people.
Murphy's right. He was very instrumental in getting the county and the city working together.
But what do we need to do to ensure that we are going to have access to utilities in the future, no matter who's in there or whether they like us or not? Or like y'all are not, rather.
And the thing about it is, me and Mr. Bill were asked a question the other night about consolidation. We're definitely agree on that. We're 70,000 people. That don't make sense to consolidate right now. Mm-hmm. But the point is, in my vision, and you can't compare us to JEA, you can't compare us to GRU. But my simple point is this. You develop a centralized utilities division that's governed by a board, such as the hospital authority that I served on, Mr. Beal serves on. You set it up with a governing board, and then funds come out of that gives the city the opportunity to they operate off it. They rely on their utilities. So my point is simple as this, Robert. You come to, if Robert and Tim come to Columbia County, we're going to build a 1 million square foot building, you go to the one-stop shop. You're not over here dealing with county politics and the city politics and different opinions or what have you. You're dealing with a governing board. Mm-hmm. It makes the cycle work faster and you get more.
Yeah, but as a practical matter, is that ever going to happen here? I mean, is the city going to give up control?
I think that if you work together, I think it's possible. I think in the meantime, I think like what the county's done in Ellisville and here on the east side of town, I think that we have to make sure that we are keeping up with what we have now until we get to that point, and then hopefully at some point we get to where we can tie it all in together and we can work together and have a board, as Commissioner Murphy said, that manages all of that, the regional utilities. But as he alluded to as well, the city does rely on those that utility income for operational costs as well. So we've got to be careful not to sever those good relationships that we've made. by trying to take away some of their income as well.
Absolutely.
Sure, I understand.
Absolutely. But stay tuned. Regional utilities.
Well, as a practical matter, how far down the road do you think we'll have a regional utility here?
Robert, I can't even sit here, and I'm not going to.
I mean, you're talking about 20 years down the road, or
but
I mean, we're talking about something 20 years down the road or more, or something.
No, can't. Here's the point. We sit here and we wait on these grants. You know, we got $20.5 million of grants sitting out there. $1.89 million. I mean, $18.8 million of them are granted something in some fourth way coming out of Tallahassee right now. And the process of these grants take an exclusive amount of time and effort. And my point is simple as this. What I understand of a regional utilities division, what Gainesville, Jacksonville, and all them, it puts them into a new bucket of money. They can simply go out there, in my interpretation, they can go out there and they can do not grant funding, but they can sell bonds and what have you. The city gets their money somewhat, if you want to say, up front. The city's going to keep on operating. And I said it before, and I'll say it today. In order for Columbia County to be successful, the city of Lake City must be successful, and they're going to make us successful, and vice versa. It's got to be a working, glued-up machine, and we've made leaps and bounds. But you know, where our plan is, Robert, I'll go ahead and break the ice. I think it's time for the Board of County Commissioners to spend some money and bring forth a organization, a group, consulting group, to explain to us, give us all the ins and outs, city combined. Does regional utilities work where Columbia County is today in 2020?
Are you going to suggest that at a meeting soon?
Stay tuned Thursday night.
Thursday, that's a joint city-county meeting?
No,
Oh, no, this is the joint city-county meeting is when?
August 20th.
It's in August. It's
I want to say it's a day or two after the election.
Yeah, it probably is August. Yeah, it'd be the 20th, if it'd be on a Thursday then. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, but my point is simple, Robert, is, you know, it's no hidden fact. When I sat in the governor's office several years ago, you know, it was my ambition to do away with all hospital authorities in the state of Florida. It's taxation without representation. That's another story for another day. But my point is simple as this, is that I think we need to do our diligence, go out and seek the people information or guidance to determine whether or not it's a viable time at this point in time. Tim Murphy seems to think it is. A lot of people in the community seem to think it is on the city and the county side, but we'll just see.
We're out of time. Basically, you want to take the last word? You want a few seconds?
Just wanted to say that, you know, one of the questions you asked in the first portion tonight was being out speaking to people. What are people's out views? Are they optimistic? Are they pessimistic? I think people in Columbia County are very optimistic overall. It's a great place to call home. Born and raised here, just like Commissioner Murphy was. I love Columbia County. I think that people are optimistic, but they also want to make sure that we have more solid and better leadership available to the
Very
people.
good. Thanks, folks. This has been great. Join us tomorrow night, folks, at 7, where we'll have candidates for State Senate 5, District 5, for tax collector, and for Third Circuit State Attorney. Good night on behalf of the Lake City Reporter and these two fine gentlemen.